Now, good morning, Brian.
Hi, Damien. How are you?
Good. You're joining us from Killa down in Cork and at school. You're a teacher down there. How long are you teaching in the primary school down there?
This is my sixth year now, almost done, Damien. I was lucky enough to fall in here straight after college, and happy here since. So yeah, 6 years done. The time doesn't get on going.
So it's not too long a journey in the morning down to the school.
No. It's my house will be very close to the Old Bridge, so it's only literally 10 minutes in the morning. It's a perfect trip, really. In fairness.
You'd know a lot of the Cork lads very well, and obviously a lot of people down around the Clashmore area, Ardmore area, would know Cork very well. Was there much talk now before and after the match last week?
I suppose it wasn't really. I suppose it was a dark enough week for us after the Limerick game, and I suppose like a lot of Waterford people, we were just trying to keep the head down and nearly avoid Cork people if possible. But no, I think a lot of Cork people kind of knew we were in a bad place, and they had a good bit of respect for us, around killing things like that, and most people were, sound enough about the situation, to be fair.
Yeah, because there has been a couple of drubbings by Cork over the years in the dark days in the past, and people still talk about those in folklore, because that Cork-Waterford rivalry has been one of the great rivalries, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. When I was younger and I first started watching Waterford, the team of the noughties, it was Cork-Waterford was the game. And even when I started playing the last years, it's been kind of ebb and flow and nip and tuck in all the games. So yeah, I suppose for me it is the great rivalry, and it has been a very healthy rivalry the last years, definitely.
What has been the highlight of your 10 years? Would you say the All Ireland final?
Yeah, I'd say I would. Like it's a weird one to say that. Look, a day you lost, the biggest match you can play in is a standout day, but like you have to kind of take it for what it is as well. Like getting to the game itself, playing at that level and playing in an Ireland final is a dream. And as I said, it was a nightmare to lose it, and you were down for a long time after. But I suppose on reflection, yeah, look to partake in their Ireland final. It's something you can look back on in years to come and say you did.
Would there be anything you would have done differently, or would you advise anybody within the team or management regarding that day? Is there any things that could have made you win that match, do you think?
I don't think so, really. I suppose, like, with everything, hindsight is a brilliant thing, but I do think, a lot of things went okay for us that day, considering it's such a high-pressure environment. I think Galway had very, very few eyes that day, and a lot seemed to go right for them. I wouldn't say we were unlucky to lose, but to me, it was a 50-50 game. We didn't make too many mistakes. The lads on the line were very cute tactically, and everyone on the pitch, I think, played up to a very good level. So look, that's all you can hope for in an Ireland final. And as I said, it didn't go our way that day, but no regrets. Look, that day it's a very disappointing day, but it's not like it's going to eat me up that we should have done this and should have done that. No, I have no regrets in that regard.
Yeah. Three managers. Davey Fitz. Tell us, what was Davey Fitz like? What is Davey Fitz like as a manager?
He's a brilliant coach. He's a brilliant motivator. He's very intense on the training field. He'll always have you, going at 100% and things like that. And he's a totally different person than away from hurling. He's a very nice fella to have a good chat with and things like that. I was young at the time, and I used to come down from Limerick with him the odd time, and he was a very nice man to engage in conversation with. And as I said, then a different man once he hit the hurling field. And I think the man you see on television is that man on the hurling field. Did you ever get the hairdryer treatment from him? I think anyone involved in these panels would have, if he felt that you weren't pulling it in or making a contribution, you'd get a quick tongue lashing. But look, that's the way he is, and I suppose you have to accept that as well. And he does get a lot from his players, so I hope I would have gotten one or two down my time, but maybe I was luckier than some.
And then Derek McGraw. Tell us, how would you define Derek McGraw as a manager?
He's brilliant. I suppose one of Derek's best traits is he's mainly, his emotional intelligence as regards, I know a lot is made of how much the player is willing to do for him, but Derek puts a lot into that, and he really kind of looked after us outside of the hurling sphere as well, as regards thinking about our careers and our jobs and things like that, and always trying to kind of more focus on our lives outside of hurling as well. So I think that's a big thing Derek focuses on, and it seems to work as regards players paying it back and things like that. And look, obviously you can hear from the Sunday game and stuff, I think people are getting to realise how shrewd tactically and things like that, and like, I know a lot of people would criticise us as having a negative team under Derek, but I think in fairness, if you look at our scoring records, and I was a forward on that team, and I never felt that I was out there running around being a negative hurler. I was on a negative team, to be honest. I just felt that we were all doing what we could to try and make Waterford win, and we didn't really mind what way people called us, as long as we were doing our best. And a lot of the time under Derek we were doing quite well, so we didn't mind at all, to be honest.
This idea of a manager, I suppose, being all inclusive with the players on the field, off the field, how important is that? Like, some people may criticise Derek, saying that he was too close to the players.
It's not a thing I've overly thought about. As I said, I personally got on very well with Derek, and he got the best out of me from a hurling point of view. And other people, then you'll have the other view that says, oh, why is the manager pandering to players' needs, and the manager needs to manage and players should just play. But I don't know, like, you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, and we had a very young panel at times. And look, if a manager is going to go that extra mile, feel like Derek did, it does help, and I can't really explain why, but it just does.
I know Pádraig's been only there less than a year. How would you classify or define Pádraig?
He's a very, very proud Waterford man. His passion is up there with anyone I've ever seen for Waterford. He would bleed Waterford for you. I feel very sorry for him as regards how the year has went. It just has went bad. I have no reason to blame him or anyone. In the next few weeks and months, I might even think more about where it went wrong. But it's still very raw at the moment, and I'm sure Pádraig said it the other day, he can't put his finger on it where it went wrong, and I'd be in a similar thing to that. I've no answers for why it went so bad this year, but it just did. And as I said, as a proud Waterford man who's hurting, I just feel sorry for him, to be honest.
And is it difficult, Brian, to hear of criticisms where people say they're alleging the players didn't try their best?
Look, I suppose Waterford people in general would be hurting as well after them defeats. But if there is one thing that would sting, it's that accusation, not trying. I think unless you be on that field and you're getting beaten by 10, 12 points, you don't know what it feels like, kind of, and it maybe look to the naked eye like players aren't trying, but like psychologically your head just can be gone in them situations, and that affects players in different ways. Like, some lads can just get stuck to the ground, some lads' confidence just goes to the floor, and they don't want the ball because they're afraid they make mistakes and make things worse. And that can all affect and manifest itself in different ways. And look, it's an easy thing to say, oh, he's not trying, he didn't run there, he's not trying, his head is down. But I think unless you've been there psychologically, it's a tough accusation to throw at someone who's training since last October, and in a lot of cases lads are driving from Dublin and Cork to just turn around and say, oh, they're not trying, they don't care about Waterford.
Very good point. In terms of structures, coaching, what the county board needs to do, if you were to look at a 5-year plan for Waterford Hurling now, or even a 10-year plan, and the county board, if Paddy Joe Ryan came to you and saying, Brian, you're an intelligent young man, you're not leaving for any other reason apart from personal reasons, you're only 28, what would you advise us to do over the next 5 to 10 years? What would you say to them?
I'd have a look at what the very successful J counties are doing. I'd have a look at what Dublin footballers did 10 years ago. Obviously, we wouldn't have anything near their resources, nor will we ever have. But if we look at the counties that got their underage structure nailed on, that led into brilliant senior teams, if we could not copy them, but see what worked and see what would work in Waterford. I think Wexford in the last few years have put an awful lot of coaches into schools and things like that, and they seem to have a very detailed hurling plan and things like that. And as I said, I don't know too much about the ins and outs of it, but I would be looking at other counties that have had success and just seeing what they've done with structures, and is it feasible for us, considering that we're not as big as county as some, and we haven't as much resources as others. But I think we could put plans in place, and I think hopefully there's progressive people there that will have a look at things like that.
Brick Walsh, your favourite player over the years?
Yeah, just what he got out of himself. I think it's rare a player will ever get the most out of themselves as the way Brick did on the training field, but then to bring it to the match day is just an innate will to win, and an innate will never to bow to defeat, and just to drag lads at times with him. It was, I don't think Waterford would have been half as good down through the years without Brick, to be honest. He was dragging teams to places where they wouldn't have been otherwise.
And great support, Brian, and from your family and loads of people within the Clashmore Kinsale parish. You've enjoyed it. What's it been like? Like to be a county footballer or hurler is a great achievement. It's a hard thing to do, and to stay on the panel and to be there. How do you feel now, looking back?
I'm glad I did it. I've no regrets that I did it for so long. I won't say I enjoyed every single minute of it. I loved it in a way, but there's an awful lot of dark days that go with the good days. I think people are aware of the sacrifice. We don't want to be made martyrs for that either, but like it is tough to do your 2-hour round trip 3 nights a week from November on. The travelling aspect was often overlooked, and you hear some of the criticisms last week that supporters are giving out, having to drive an hour to watch us play and things like that. But like there's sweet 5 or 6 lads coming from Dublin 3 and 4 nights a week down through the year and things like that. I just think if people think about that for a while, maybe it does give them a sense of what goes into it. But yeah, no, as I said, I don't regret anything. There's plenty of bad days to go to good days, but I wouldn't change anything. And as you said, I was happy to kind of represent my club and my family while I was doing it.
Brian, it's a pleasure talking to you again, and the very, very best of luck with the future, with work, with life, with love, and with the championship this season.